And we're live. We'll just give it about a minute here to get everybody in and settled. Get started. Good morning. Good morning. People rolling in here. Not my chat window. We're expecting a nice full house today. Is it even a full house anymore when it's all virtual? Probably not. Everybody in. All right. We are at 11 a.m. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to March and our March Workforce Wednesday. This month, we celebrate Women's History Month, National Reading Month, and Disability Awareness Month. We are so happy to have you here for a very exciting conversation around future-proofing your workforce, skills for 2030 and beyond. And I can't believe that we are that close to 2030. It doesn't even really makes sense, but here we are. So as we look towards 2030 and beyond, one thing is clear. The future of work isn't about replacing people with technology. It's about using AI to strengthen the systems that support them. Employers across Minnesota are discovering that the real promise of AI lies in removing friction from workflows, modernizing outdated processes, and freeing teams to focus on the uniquely human skills, which include problem solving, collaboration, and leadership, those key skills that drive economic growth. By thoughtfully integrating AI into our operations, we can future-proof our organizations, not by cutting talent, but by empowering it. And today's conversation is about how we build that kind of resilient, adaptable workforce, one where technology enhances human potential rather than competing with it. My name is Jessica Miller, and I'm the Director of Workforce Strategy for the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, also known as DEED. We are so happy to have you here with us today. If you're new, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Please take a second, introduce yourself in the chat, your role, where you work, as well as an example of how you've seen or heard AI being used in the workplace to support workforce. And I'll go first. Aside from examples that I think we're all familiar with, like Spotify and Netflix, where they leverage AI to create curated content for users, we've also heard about UPS using AI to optimize driving routes that reduce time and fuel cost. And I read this morning about companies utilizing AI to generate career pathways and skills maps to help individual career development plans for their workforce and their teams based on worker strengths, performance data, skills adjacencies, and labor market demand. This helps employees visualize their growth opportunities, and we know how important clear career pathways are to increasing worker retention. Our team of consultants work regionally, which means that each and every consultant will have a slightly different way that they do their work based on the region and the employers that they're serving in those regions. But the common core ways that we support employers are identified here on this slide. We work with you to identify gaps in your current strategies, ensure that you're connected with your local, regional, and state workforce partners, and we assist you in building out strategies that will help you attract and retain workforce. As you will learn today, our consultation process is rooted and informed by data and is developed specifically with your company's needs and goals in mind. We serve as your guide through the process and convene workforce partners for support. We share training grant opportunities and continually check in to ensure that progress is being made and assist in making adjustments along the way. When you work with us, you're automatically connected to a wide network of people and partners who work collaboratively for the success of our state, our regions, our communities, so that your business and our workforce can thrive. We do not do this work alone. It takes many people to bring success to these efforts. The next slide, I believe, is our lineup. Yes, so here is our 2026 lineup ready for registration. You spoke and we listened. We incorporated your feedback into the topics that you see here today, and we'll continue to weave your needs into our sessions for the year. So if a hot topic comes up, or you see something new or hear something and something new is on your mind, we're always happy to add a session. So please keep filling out these evaluations and share information with us, and we will do what we can. I would also like to take a moment to just let you know that that evaluation is going to be popped into the chat for you probably a couple times throughout our time. And we really do like to see what you have to say about these events and what you find valuable, and if there's opportunities that you think on what we can do to make things better. As always, all of these webinars are recorded and available to view at any time on our YouTube channel, as well as our careerforcemn.gov website, where you'll find recordings, resources from this session, as well as all of our previous sessions going back several years now. We will be utilizing our chat feature today, as well as the Q&A, which is on the top menu bar. Throughout our time together, please ask questions, answer questions, and interact with our guests, the consultants, partners, and each other. We really want to continue to build upon the community that we've started here, and we always welcome your engagement. We have a packed agenda today and speakers who have dedicated their careers to being change makers and culture shakers, and I'm really excited for you to meet them. So without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce you to the delightful Shayla Drake, our Northeast Workforce Strategy Consultant. Shayla.
So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's session on future-proofing your workforce. Hopefully words will work for me the rest of the session today. My name is Shayla Drake, and I serve as your workforce strategy consultant for the Northeast region of Minnesota and parts of the Central region. So today we'll explore how AI is emerging technologies and changing work, and how employers can prepare their people to thrive in 2030 and beyond. So with that, we'll kick this off with a presentation covering key topics and insights, where we'll start with like what's changing, then move into the skills, like what matters most. We'll talk about shifting from job titles and competencies to career pathways, and then move into a panel discussion following the presentation with our industry experts. And then finally, we'll conclude the event with a Q&A session that we always do, which is kind of my favorite part, where you, the audience, get to ask our panelists questions, allowing the attendees to ask the questions. So with that, we're going to kick off the presentation portion. So we workforce consultants are hearing from partners a lot that the employers, that there are significant shifts in tasks within the existing jobs, right? There's a growing need for continuous upskilling and reskilling, right? The year 2030 is approaching quickly, right? Necessitating immediate planning and adaptation for the workforce. AI and automation are transforming job roles and how tasks are performed, even in seemingly stable positions. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2025 notes that employers are expected about 39% of key skills required in the job market to change by 2030, which is a major shift in how work gets done. And continuous learning and reskilling are also becoming essential components of workforce strategy for future success. These are not optional add-ons anymore. Previously, these were options. The Future of Jobs Report 2025 also brings together insights from over 1,000 employers worldwide and shows employers anticipate a significant reshaping of core skills by 2030. A related World Economic Forum study on new economy skills highlights that nearly 6 in 10 workers globally will need some form of training by 2030 to keep pace with evolving job requirements. So across sectors, demand is rising at the same time for both human-centric skills and digital fluency. So Minnesota's own analysis of AI in the labor market, so our data analysts, finds that about 56% overall employment, more than 1.6 million jobs in occupations with higher exposure to AI. So that means over half of our jobs in Minnesota have an exposure to AI, right? So we aren't immune to AI. We can't just say we're not going to be impacted by it. This exposure is contraindicated in industries such as management, manufacturing, finance and insurance, healthcare, and wholesale trade. A career force analysis emphasizes that high exposure to AI means significant interaction with AI tools, changing tasks, not automatic job replacement, especially in many white-collar occupations. So we're not talking about replacing jobs, right? We're talking about how do we augment tasks, right? How do we do more with the technology? We're not talking about replacing jobs. So our opportunity to the threat is a signal to invest in people and redesign work instead of waiting for the disruption. So this is how the technology changes tasks, not people. Automating routine tasks, augmenting human tasks, right? Where the technology and the humans can work together, and then advancing the higher value tasks, right? Where we can really, the lower level tasks where the people really need to do the work, right? We need the people to do this work. Give this to the people. Over here, give this to the computers. In the middle, the people and the computers to work together. We can really separate this out. This is the conversation that needs to happen, right? Automations, seamless routines, repetitive tasks, increasing efficiency, productivity across various sectors. We need to have agreement. For augmentation refers to the collaboration between humans and technology, as I talked about before. We need to have a task versus job focus. Focusing on tasks rather than the entire job helps understanding the role of automation in the workplace. The role of automation. AI automation focuses on routine and data-heavy tasks, enhancing efficiency and productivity. And then the technology of augmentation. Technology provides better data and tools, supporting workers and making informed decisions, and it gives us an opportunity for growth. Automation allows us for a shift to higher value work, and it gives employees more tools to be able to do more with what they have. So when we think about this, it's separating the human skills and the digital skills for thinking about 2030 and beyond. So the essential human skills include critical thinking, creativity, resilience, collaboration, and which are vital for future adaptability. Digital literacy, when we think about digital and technical skills, this encompasses technical literacy, data awareness, which are crucial for navigating those future landscapes. Those are what we're going to put in that digital technical bucket, right? That's going to help with the adaptability for the resilience that are key to thriving in this rapidly changing technical environment. So understanding cybersecurity basics, for example, is essential for protecting oneself in organizational digital world, right? We would put that in that digital technical bucket. And so being able to have people that are strong in both categories are going to be essential. And having individuals be able to utilize their technical skills and then getting stronger in their human skills, I think is going to be one thing that can hopefully grow from this. But if we don't lean into the technical aspect of it, people will not be able to thrive in their human skills as well. So human skills can be your competitive advantage. As a routine, manual tasks become more automated, employers place greater emphasis on their human-centric skills like problem solving, leadership, social influence, and collaboration. Human skills such as resilience and adaptability, curiosity are specifically cited as key differentiators between declining and growing roles. These skills can help employees lead change rather than resist it, which is crucial when roles and technologies are evolving. But we have to think about digital skills being essential for every role. Across all occupations, digital fluency is becoming a baseline. Expectations is not just for your IT staff. Key technical priorities are identified by employers include AI, big data skills, networks, cybersecurity, general technology literacy in almost every role. For many roles, it is less about coding and more about being confident power user who can adopt new tools and use data in everyday decisions. And what's new is Coursera has a plethora of training from AI fundamentals to a newly launched AI professional certificate that is free for US-based small businesses and medium businesses who have a valid EIN and employer identification number if you have 500 employees or less. So there are tools for employers to help your employees get some of these skills. So you don't have to use a lot of money to help get your employees the training, because everyone kind of has to have these skills. So how can you get your employees the training that they need to get these skills? So one thing that we're also seeing is that traditional job descriptions tend to lag behind the real work that's happening on the floor and in the office, right? Competency-based approaches, instead of defining roles by observable skills and behaviors or what people can actually do, is kind of tending to be the way that we've seen things to go. This makes it easier to align training and performance management and promotion decisions to real performance needs. A competency-based pathway lays out clear steps from entry level to higher skilled roles with defined competencies at each stage. Models like guided and career pathways emphasize stackable credentials, work-based learning, and recognition of prior learning so workers can advance as they demonstrate mastery. This approach supports both equity and efficiency so people can move faster when they already have the skills, and employers can see exactly what each credential or pathway step represents. So why competency-based approaches work? Research on competency-based pathways approaches show that they help align education and training and workforce systems with evolving labor market needs. So by focusing on demonstrated skills, employers can build more accurate training plans and internal pipelines for their crucial roles. And clear competency pathways make it easier for employees to see a future with your organization, which supports engagement and retention. And as routine manual tasks become more automated, employers place greater emphasis on human-centric skills like problem solving and leadership and social influence and collaboration. Human skills and resilience and adaptability and curiosity are specifically cited as key differentiators between declining and growing roles. These skills help employees lead change rather than resist it, which is crucial when roles and technologies are evolving. So with that, we need to prepare for the skills of 2030. We've talked about the needs of the evolving workforce, the need to change to stackable credentials and competency-based pathways. We know that there is digital need in every single role, and that human skills are the need of the future, and that we have to strengthen our human-centric side of things. So moving into our panel discussion, I'm excited to introduce our panelists today. We have Amanda Bell, who is the coordinator of immersive and digital learning at South Central Service Cooperative. She oversees the immersive empowered training programs that promote workforce development, career pathways, and employer readiness for future jobs. Her projects include VR, CNA skills training, AI-based communication models, multilingual and ESL supportive learning solutions, and VR career exploration, all aimed at helping organizations leverage technology to improve work and build long-term workforce resilience. Scott Cummings is the Minnesota market lead for Accenture, responsible for market development, strategic positioning, and employee engagement for over 1,400 plus Minneapolis-based employees. With over 25 years of consulting experience, Scott brings deep expertise in business operations and market growth, and currently leads initiatives such as the Minnesota Apprentice Network, Health Tech Innovations Challenge, pro bono projects. He serves as on the Governor's Workforce Development Board, Minneapolis Regional Chamber, Children's Theater Company, and is an active member of Minnesota Business Partnership, Chief of Staff Group. Scott holds a BA in Business Economics, Willamette University, and studied globally through St. Olaf College, global semester and lives with his family in Roseville, Minnesota. Vicki Hagberg is regional director of the Northland SBDC, Small Business Development Center. Told you words today, in Northeast Minnesota, where she leads a team of 17 consultants serving in rural region the size of West Virginia. With a background in engineering and economic development, she brings a practical and cross-sector approach to business advising. Vicki has led award-winning initiatives focused on digital equity and technology adoption. She is passionate about helping small businesses and SBDC consultants use AI effectively to better serve their clients and strengthen Minnesota's economy. So with that, I would like to get into our conversation. Okay. So the first question that I have is going to be for all three of you, and anyone can ask first. With Minnesota employers expecting major skills shift by 2030, as highlighted, because over 56% of Minnesota employers now are exposed. How are you helping organizations prioritize which roles and tasks to address first when helping plan for automation and augmenting roles?
I'm happy to kick things off, Shayla, and feel free to probably call on me and any of the rest of the panelists. Just put us on the spot. I'm Vicki Hagberg, as Shayla said. I'm the Regional Director of Northland SBDC. And we tend to serve small businesses on the smaller side of the spectrum. So we can serve businesses up to 500 employees, generally speaking. But a lot of because we're a teach you how instead of a do it for you organization, a lot of our businesses tend to have 50 or fewer employees. And in my space, it is really individualized. One of the first questions I really want to ask a business that I'm working with as they're looking at adopting AI and training their workforce is, what's the goal? What's your priority? Is it to do repetitive tasks faster? Is it to enhance and maybe do a better job with some of those more complex tasks? But for me, that's the first question before we dive into which roles, which tasks. What's the value alignment at your organization? And then we can dive into what specific tasks, which specific roles make the most sense to move forward with. One of the tools that we use that I think is going to be pasted in the chat here is an assessment and implementation guide that small businesses can access for free from our partners at the West Central SBDC. We helped them develop that in 2025, just to see where are you at realistically. What's the next step for you as you look to implement AI at your business?
Absolutely. What's the next step?
I can jump in next. Scott Cummings with Accenture. Let me just start by saying thank you for hosting this and thank you for inviting me. I think on the other end of the scale, Accenture works with very large global clients. So, the small end to the large end here. We've developed, what we think is a differentiated augmentation first approach to this. And, while there's some things that will be automated, we start to look at things of like, how do you decompose roles into tasks that are core automatable, augmentable, to ensure that workflows are optimized for human and AI. And the human in the loop piece is, kind of core to how we view things have to work. And that strategy enables organizations to drive sustainable transformation that maximizes the value from the augmenting or automation of tasks. And it's at the task level that, that we look at, like, you have to build internal training capacity that scales with that technology, and that's what's going to allow you to create new career pathways and really, in the end, prepare people for work that doesn't even yet exist. So, I mean, I'll just say that we've got a methodology that kind of goes through all of that, and there's a lot to come still, but I think I'd start there.
Absolutely.
And I can go next. I'm Amanda Bell from the South Central Service Cooperative. We're an educational agency located in North Mankato, and I come from a little different lens from the education and training standpoint. And what we really see is schools, how they can adopt AI, whether it's for their workforce or for their students. What's the best and safest way to adopt it for their districts or their specific schools. Also looking into career and technical education, which I am involved in, and how can we bring in AI and immersive technologies to help better prepare the future workforce, whether that be through career exploration or skill training, or even communication training, which we all know is extremely important and is one of the things that many of our advisory boards say we need employers who can communicate, whether that's verbally, written. We all know they can text, but being able to have those people or personal skills, soft skills that all employers are looking for. And really looking at areas where students want to explore careers. They want to learn more about healthcare, manufacturing, but those aren't areas that a 16 or 17-year-old can just jump into and do a job shadow. So what are the ways that we can use these tools to better help give our students an experience, different job opportunities that they could see themselves interested in and going into in the future?
As a slight follow-up question just to that, can you provide some examples of how employers can partner with education and workforce systems to accelerate training and career maybe pathways without losing maybe momentum, or either pathways or career exploration, to your point?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. It's something we're always looking for. Many schools throughout Minnesota have career and technical education programs, which is introducing those students to the different career clusters and then the different pathways that they can get to go there. And as a cooperative where I work, we have an advisory board where we work directly with our regional healthcare providers, working together to develop curriculum and training skills and things that they're seeing in the industry currently that they know, and in the future that they know they'll need our future workers to have. And so getting that feedback from our industry partners is vital for us to then continue to develop our curriculum and then also provide more experiences for our students. So anytime we can partner with an industry partner that we can do an on-site visit, I always say, you can do AI and VR, but until you get there and actually see, smell, hear the location, you don't know if this career is really what you would be interested in doing. So anytime we can partner with industry to give our students any type of experience on site, or even just talking to someone that works there. We also partner with the community colleges in our area so that we're able to provide concurrent enrollment for our students, so that way they can earn the college credit in high school while they're doing this work. So that way when they do leave, they're ready for either direct advancement into the career or continuing education.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any additional input for collaboration for how employers can partner with education for workforce systems? I know Amanda's the only educator on here, but like any examples to accelerate for career pathways?
I guess yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I think I'd add just a couple things where I think your list was fabulous. one thing that we have done along with a bunch of other employers are create sort of professional apprenticeships that, are more technology focused, and, providing that sort of opportunity, to learn on the job, but also having the education piece built into that has been great. I think providing the feedback from the employer side is so key. And, I think you can go direct to an education partner. There are forums through the chambers and stuff, that making sure that it's a two-way street, that, so education and training partners know what employers need and want is key here. I think I'd add those two things.
I've got a quick one. Similarly, SBDC works primarily with employers instead of directly with workforce development. And I think the area where we plug in goes back to the slides that you went through, Shayla, around competency-based approaches and helping smaller employers really reframe and design their jobs, I think, as Scott said, as tasks and as milestones. And so we do a lot of work with small employers that don't have a dedicated HR team to create those reframe job descriptions, to remap the tasks and roles of the organization, and then to tie that into a compensation-based model for advancement as well, knowing that having clear expectations and clear guidelines between your employers and your employees is one huge way to reduce turnover. And the labor market's still tight. It may have loosened a little bit, but it's still tight, and it's a priority for our employers to, keep the team that they're training and investing in.
Awesome. All right. So thinking about, when we're still kind of talking a little bit about the education piece, I want to talk about maybe some of this immersive and digital learning. Amanda, how are immersive and digital learning tools changing the way maybe employers are delivering some of their upskilling and reskilling programs that they're maybe wanting to offer to their employees?
Yeah, being able to offer digital and immersive learning is really, to me, it's equity and accessibility. It allows the flexibility of individuals to be able to access the training, during the time that they're available, anytime, anywhere, which is extremely beneficial. I work with a lot of adult learners as well, that are looking to go on to different career pathways, and they have families. So being able to access the training outside of work time, family time is extremely valuable. Also having the flexibility of the time to go through it to make sure that they fully comprehend the training or the education that they're learning, giving them that time to really digest the information. I also work with a lot of new Americans. So the language is a barrier. So being able to provide trainings that allow them to listen or hear the information in their native language, but then also being able to see it in English or read it in English as well, to really reinforce those language learning skills. So there's just so many opportunities I see within digital and immersive learning to provide that equity, the accessibility to be able to meet people where they're at, which is really what we're trying to do when we're looking at education and workforce development, is meet people where they're at, help them decide where they want to go, and then help them along that path.
Awesome. So kind of in that same thought process on the employer side of things, maybe they're trying to decide about what to maybe do. So maybe, Vicki, from a consultant lens, maybe what frameworks or criteria do you use to help maybe a business decide which AI or automation tools to implement first, so before they step into because you're going to have your digital technology, your immersive or digital learning tools for their training. So what frameworks or criteria do you use to help businesses decide which AI or automation tools to implement first when they're navigating their options?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from the last year in working with small businesses on this topic is that there's a lot of general education needed. Most small businesses most individuals that I work with in any spectrum of what they're doing professionally are treating large language models like a search engine because it's the most analogous thing to them. They're like, oh, this is Google but better or worse, right? And there's a lot of folks that have tried using a large language model like they use a search engine and have been really disappointed with the results, especially earlier on where we're seeing higher rates of hallucinations and bad data coming back, out of date information coming back before some of these models started to be able to access the live internet. And so, a year ago, I was like, yep, we go in, we help them analyze the task, we find the right tool for that task and for the level of involvement and capacity of that small organization. And now I'm like, let's take a step back. Across the board, employees need to better understand what large language models and other AI technologies can do. It is astounding to most people when we just pull back the curtain and show them the amazing things that these technologies can accomplish. But the other thing that's really important in my mind, and I don't want to go on and on about this forever, is having a manual, having a policy for employees so they know what kind of data can go into an AI tool, which AI tools they're allowed to use, and which ones maybe are not vetted by the organization, and what to do if they have a question. As a leader of a team, if your team isn't asking you and giving you feedback of, oh, what about this? What about this? That either means they're not using AI like you're asking them to, or they're using it in rogue ways that you don't want them to. And that understanding the risk and mitigating the risk as an organization is important too. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, you definitely don't want rogue AI, or your organization is utilizing one language model and they're utilizing another one for information which is not approved for your organization, and they're getting all kinds of hallucination and they're acting on that data and information for fun. Yes. So looking at actually kind of even from that, so Scott, from a market development standpoint, what trends in AI-driven workforce transformation are you seeing across industries?
How many hours do we have? Let me start with a few examples, I guess. And it varies by industry for sure, but a couple that are cross industry. To follow up on the last point, the learning piece, where so many companies are saying we need to educate the workforce, our employees, on how to use this, what to use it, and when. And at scale, where, just for example, at Accenture, where we've got about 750,000 employees, trying to upskill everyone on what this means. We've rolled out a global training program that has kind of three parts to it. One we call TQ, which is technology quotient, just to get people understanding what all of this means. And this is not just our technology practitioners. This is everyone in marketing, finance, HR, consulting, operations. everyone needs to understand when and how to use this stuff. So, the kind of TQ piece, then we've rolled out, I think about a 2-hour course from Stanford to just explain what agentic AI is, where, we've had, kind of AI, Gen AI, and now agentic. And if everyone isn't figuring out how to use this in their role, you can't go tell everyone how to use it. At some point, they have to figure it out, but they have to understand what's going on enough. And then we've even gone as far as to have workshops of come in and we will help you build an agent to do something, just so you have the hands-on experience of building one. And it may not be one that you use after that day, but at least you have the concepts of here's what's coming and here's what you need to know. So stepping back, many of our clients are saying we need that too, right? So it's the learning piece, upskilling piece, and that sort of cuts across industries as a whole. And then each one sort of has their own flavor. But I think I saw that we had a new piece of research out that said 84% of executives are planning to redesign roles, that will incorporate pieces of, Gen AI, agentic AI. So it's almost everyone, and I think that will only go up from here.
Well, thinking about that, and we were talking about, soft skills and, skills in general. What does a realistic digital skills baseline look like for, say, non-technical roles? Let's just say not in 2030, just say 2026. That's everybody, let's just say, realistically, what is a realistic skills baseline,
I guess I can follow on.
Kick it off, but yeah.
It's really continuous learning. That's the skill that everyone has to have now, and really is the baseline of if everyone's not continuing to learn what the next new thing is, they will be so far behind so fast, right? And that sounds a little doom and gloom, but in every role is going to be touched by this somehow. And if everyone is not, finding time to learn something new, they're going to fall below the baseline.
I got an add-on to that. When you think specifically about task augmentation too, once you get to the point, right, of baseline learning about how to use AI effectively, how to use it safely, responsibly. When you look at augmenting a task with AI or using large language models for more complex tasks than clean up this email, right? Analyze this data, give me takeaways on X, Y, and Z, create a report, create a PowerPoint that I can use to explain this to my team. That requires a soft skill set that I think folks aren't talking about with AI enough. I see effective users of today's large language models as having a really strong set of skills in delegation. And so how do you break down a task into smaller steps? Then how do you decide which of those tasks are appropriate for AI to help you out with? And how do you provide feedback to AI, whether you're using agentic models or using, kind of a standard large language model platform we have today, how do you provide that feedback when the results are not what you need, or when the process hasn't gone the way that you wanted it to? And a lot of folks that we work with at SBDC have never had to do that before, especially the solopreneurs that we're working with who maybe have never had to manage a team in the past. And this is the fundamental non-technology based shift in my mind, that we're asking folks that have never had to be a manager before to gain those skills. And I think that helping people with that particular framework is one of the most important things that we can do when you want to take it to like the mid-level of AI usage.
Well, so I think a good maybe follow-up to maybe help to this is, so Amanda, what indicators would maybe show that maybe digital learning tools are actually improving performance and adaptability? We're doing all of this continuing, they're learning a little bit here and there, they're engaging in agentic AI, utilization, this and that, but, how are we, what indicators are actually showing that it's improving performance and adaptability?
I see it as we can see completion, right? So we can see that someone completed the task, or they completed the training module, or whatever that may be. But really, we have to move beyond that completion rate to skill demonstration. So can they demonstrate the skill that they're using or learning? And is there a behavior change? Do you see them incorporating that skill more and more into their work time? And then has it increased their confidence? Do they feel more confident in the skill set that they're working on right now, to be able to use it in different ways? And are they confident enough to experiment and know that they can practice, and it may not always come out exactly as they thought it might. So then using those critical thinking skills to determine, okay, so it didn't work this way, so what is another way I can do it, or input to the AI to get a better output of what's needed.
I think curiosity and resilience are two of the most important skill sets and attributes the workforce can bring into this changing age.
So Vicki, then how is the development of soft skills related to outcomes in using technology in the workplace?
Yeah, I think there's kind of multiple levels of AI proficiency that different folks can have. And we talked about starting with using AI like a search engine, and then maybe using it to augment some more complex tasks, and then eventually getting to a point where you're designing your workflows, you're designing how you spend your day to utilize AI in its most effective ways. And so, I think for the types of businesses that we're working with, and they're usually using off-the-shelf consumer solutions, right? Like Claude and ChatGPT and things like that, to help them with their workloads. We can sit down with them, help them understand a task that they hate, or they want to do faster, or whatever, or maybe they need to do better because it's not in their natural skill set. And we can take a look at how long does that take them to do daily, and how long does that take to do with an AI augmented workflow. And it is not at all unusual for us to help a entrepreneur save 100 or 200 hours a year with just one task. And it's one of my favorite things to ask folks, like, Shayla, what would you do if you had 100 hours extra a year? How would you spend that time? Would you spend it on vacation with your family, learning, growing, right, your work and your business? It's exciting to me what that potential is.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, My goodness. That so well, oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm gonna go continue on like scaling and all of that questions. So this will go to Scott, because like if you're having to like I'm gonna get 100 hours back to my year if I'm gonna utilize this. So this is a kind of a thing measure too. How do you, Scott, help, maybe because Vicky works with small businesses. How do you help large businesses think about you know, utilizing their return on investment for, implementation, that kind of thing? Is there anything that you help them for calculation, for implementations, or anything like that for their businesses?
For sure. And I think it's similar. It's just probably at scale, where as we look at roles and, and break those down to tasks, and what tasks, as Vicky just talked about, can you augment or automate, and the time that you get back. I mean, it highlights that the human skills are so much more valuable, where there's so many things that you can, augment, great, but then you have to reshift the workforce to do higher level work. And that's where the upskilling piece is so key, and if they don't have the human skills to manage the AI and a team, and it's a mixed team where, they've got some agents doing some work, they've got some human team doing some work, and being able to communicate and talk to all of those, and really provide feedback to all of them, that's where employers have to invest in their people to say, hey, though work is fundamentally changing, we need to upskill all of you who are going to manage that. And then we can reallocate time and say, great, now we aren't going to do as much testing because that can all be done on its own, but we need to spend more time in QA or some other phase that's higher value and requires the human in the loop, or really human in the lead. Then you can start to reallocate time to focus on higher value tasks. You can, as was said, you can focus on growth, you can reallocate time. But I think the thing that we have to continue to say is most of those are going to be higher skill tasks. And so we have to continue to reinvest in our people as we reallocate the work.
So what we're going to do, we're going to pop up the slides again. We're about to transition because I have one takeaway slide for the attendees, and then we're going to transition to the unplugged quick. Let me pull this up. There you go. There's not a delay. Well, awkward silence.
I can feel the silence while you get there, Shayla, because something that Scott said that really resonated with me and is so important. I just want to share a quick anecdote. There's a process that we recently kind of augmented in our own SBDC internal work, and we had it pretty well streamlined, right? We were getting great outcomes from it. And then ChatGPT changed their model, and the outcome from using that same process with a different model was garbage. It was terrible. And then it got worse because our team had gotten so used to having good outcomes from this agent that they didn't question it, and they didn't really put themselves as the human in the loop enough to catch that the quality of the outcome was really bad. And we took that bad product and we worked with it for another 3 or 4 hours, and then it landed on my desk for review. And I was like, oh no, this is not the outcome that we need as an organization. It's not up to our high standards. And so it's a reframing moment for us that the importance of the human in the loop has to be reiterated. It just can't be training on the front end. It has to be reiterated as a cultural thing if you are going to use.
That is not my intention. Okay. So practical steps that you can take for 2030 basically here is to pick one priority role and conduct a simple skills audit. List key tasks today and how they might change with new technology. The best thing about this is that you will you start with one thing and you only focus on that one thing, that one small thing. And then you identify your super user. This super user is basically going to be the one to help everyone else get on board. They're going to help you roll it out, and they're going to help you train everybody else. They're going to help everyone get excited about it. Then you're going to draft a competency-based pathway, hopefully, for one role or department. And that's if it's, you know, the role, if it's the skills, if it's related to that skill, and then reach out to one educator or workforce partner to explore collaboration. So this would be your goals for the year if you're going to tie that to positions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to pass it over to Becky. There we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Great session. I'm hoping you stay on for the Unplugged because I've got some questions for the panelists that you won't want to miss. So great conversation. A big thank you to our panelists. As always, we appreciate your feedback. Take a moment to complete the brief survey to continue providing us relevant content and improving the sessions. For those who registered, the recording and related resources will be sent out soon. And a quick preview, registration is now open for next month's Workforce Wednesday, which is navigating generational differences in the workplace. I'm especially excited for this one, not only because generational dynamics are showing up everywhere right now, but because I'll be leading the session. So we'll focus on practical ways to strengthen communication, reduce friction, and keep teams engaged across age groups. So with tools you can apply right away, so you won't want to miss that, no matter what industry you're with. The registration link is in the chat and on the Workforce Wednesday webpage, careerforcemn.gov. And while you're there, you can explore past upcoming topics, connect with your workforce strategy consultant, and sign up for reminders and our newsletters. Mark your calendar, Wednesday, April 1st. It is April Fool's Day, but it will take place. All right, next slide. Finally, feel free to reach out to your workforce strategy consultant listed right here to explore consultation opportunities. And at this point, let's open it up to our Unplugged session. And you're welcome to unmute, turn on your cameras, and join the conversation. Thank you again. Give us just a minute here. Okay. So now this is our chance to really go deeper with the panelists based off the conversations that we've already had. And I think there is one question in the chat already that we can get started on. And I'll just throw it out to all the panelists. So one question the audience member had is, are there any ethical questions about the use of AI or noting when AI was used when writing newsletters, articles, grant applications, emails, etc.? I know that's a great question, so thank you. And that seems to come up all the time. So I don't know, any of the panelists would like to jump in and get your thoughts? That would be great.
couple of thoughts. I mean, one, I think it's so prevalently used to redraft emails, letters, papers. Like, I'm not sure that there's, a citation that has to be there where it's going to be used in some form. I think that said, I mean, the responsible use of AI, at least in the business community, is talked about extensively, how and when. I don't know that the citation of it is probably a thing that's going to happen, though.
And I know, Vicki, you had mentioned in the session, like, just, have them know what your policies are, right? Like, with respect to that too, so.
Yeah, and I think it's important for businesses to know their customer and know when it matters to disclose that AI is used in a task. I'm personally at the same spot Scott is at for if I'm using AI to help me write an email or take my 14-page email and get it down to 6 action items. Yeah, I'm not going to be disclosing that I used AI for that task every single time, but I have seen it blow up in small businesses' faces when they're using AI for image generation or video content generation in particular, and they are not disclosing that they're using AI and getting a lot of backlash from their consumers. And so I think this is a moving target, and that you should disclose AI when it matters for the values of your organization or for the values of your consumers and your customers.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment because I use ChatGPT and other programs pretty much regularly now. So I would hate to disclose every email. All right, perfect. Why don't we let's go right into practical first steps for employers. I know, Shayla, you had that on the presentation, but I'm curious to hear from the panelists if an employer in the audience really wants to start small in 2026, what's maybe one action you can recommend to future-proof their workforce? And if you just want to do a round robin, that would be great. First steps they can take.
I have an easy one. It's a shameless plug that if any small business, whether you're a solopreneur or a business with under 500 employees, wants to access SBDC services, I'll pop it in the chat unless our team at Deed can do that, of how to find your local SBDC. We're available throughout the state, not just in northeastern Minnesota. And I think I mentioned earlier, I think one thing we can help with for those small employers is let's look at getting your first competency-based job description and, prepped and understand what that process looks like to transition over to a competency-based compensation and evaluation model.
Okay.
One thing I would add is don't be afraid to explore. There's so many new tools out there, and they're continue to come out. Don't be afraid to explore, experiment with them, find out what works for you or what doesn't. And also find people that are already doing things that you're interested in or things that you want to accomplish and talk to them, ask them questions. How I get many questions from instructors. How are you implementing AI into the classroom? How are you implementing VR into the classroom to advance student skills? So reach out to those people that are already doing it and ask questions.
I think I just build on that and say, on the employer side, invest in your team, invest in your people, upskill them. And there's a spectrum there of, zero cost, low cost, up to, as far as you want to go with certifications and stuff, but keep your team learning and understanding, and to the previous point, make sure they know what the responsible use is.
Great. Okay, let's pop into how about maybe one misconception that you hear about most often about AI in the workforce right now. Anything that you wish employers would just stop assuming? That's a good one, because I feel like there's quite a bit of misconception out there.
I've got one that I'm happy to share to kick this off. I hear a lot of people talking about AI and how terrible it is because everything it outputs is wrong. And I'm not saying that AI is never wrong. I am absolutely not saying that. But 2 points I want to make. It is an entirely different situation than 2 years ago, in the way that large language models operate and how they bring in tools and computer coding to solve complex problems in ways they couldn't before. And humans also make mistakes. I think it's something that we forget about, that there can't be improvements on the quality of a process if there's mistakes ever. Humans make mistakes too. And I think people tend to overestimate the rate of problems with AI outputs and overestimate the risks sometimes of using AI for their business.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know sometimes I'll pop between Perplexity or Claude, or to see what their output is. So you just never know what you get. And one of the classes I took on Coursera, which is great, was prompting. It's all about the prompt and how you write that prompt. So I guess I'm curious as to what your favorite models are, or maybe how you go about writing your prompts for your work.
I've tried all of them too, figuring out which ones. And I've also found that some work better for different areas. I've used ChatGPT to help me do interior design. What paint color should I paint my dining room? I've used Claude for creating lesson plans or things for students. So it really, each of them, I think, have a little bit something better, but it's just about how you plan to use it.
Yeah, and James said in here in the chat, he said, can you use AI to help me write prompts? Yes, I do. I do, like, as an expert, help me write a prompt. So AI is really, really fun for sure.
And one of the big ones with that too is ask AI to ask you any clarifying questions. That's a big one, because then that can get a lot more information out of you that you didn't even realize that it would need to give you the best answer.
I think I'd add, just be as clear and detailed as possible, and also give it feedback too.
Yeah, that's good. Good. All right, I'm going to pop back to my other list of questions here. So what's one thing leaders do that accidentally increases employee fear or resistance during AI changes? And maybe what should they do instead? So one thing leaders accidentally do that increases employee fear or resistance.
Lack of transparency. Period. Have to build trust.
And set expectations, right?
Yeah.
I think also not building in the support systems that the human support systems that people need as they're adopting these technologies and learning these new skills. you know, if someone's told you have to use AI for this task, but there's not a support system that's there, it's going to fail, and your team is going to lose trust in you as a leader, right? As the organization, and they're not going to adopt the new technology. As soon as they get frustrated, they might quit. So I think building in that peer-to-peer support and expert training support is really important. It's not just a certification from Coursera. It's got to be deeper than that.
Yeah, interestingly, like I said, I was going to do next month's navigating generational differences. And I think this kind of plays into that, where you have folks that know how to use technology differently at different skill sets and levels. So that also comes into play. So that's just my mind working and thinking about the subject I'm doing next month. But yeah, not, not everyone is an expert, and we all learn, but it's definitely fun. Okay, I want to go back. If there are I don't see any questions from the audience. Don't be shy. This is your time. Pop it in the Q&A, because that'll be my top priority there. How about let's go back to the main session, because I know there were a few questions that we hadn't been able to get to. So Amanda, the question for you is, how do you ensure immersive learning solutions are accessible to rural or resource limited employers?
It's a great question. One of the big ways is we put them in different formats. So specifically with our VR, you think of VR immersive technology with a headset. And not everyone is going to be able to afford a headset or have access to that. So we've created a mobile app that still has those VR skills and things included into it, which I see working, in the high school level, but also adults that are in training. Everyone's on their phone. They have their phone. So it's a great way to be able to access the tool when you're, on a long car ride or whatever it is. And then we also have them web-based so that you can do it on a computer, a laptop, but making sure there's multiple modes of access and not just relying on only one. Also, with our VR and AI tools that we have developed, all of them have been translated. So through a grant and a program that we work on, specifically, we translated all of our trainings to 2 languages, Somali and Spanish. So that way they're accessible to those that may have a language barrier with English. And so instead of having to stop any type of training or learning to improve English skills, they can continue to do the training and learning as they're building those English skills.
That's great. I love that you have an app, because there's more interaction.
Yeah. And specifically with high school students, and kind of going on to what you're looking at for the next topic of Workforce Wednesday, you would be absolutely shocked to think that many of the younger students don't know really how to work computers or how to upload a document. They know apps, they know phones, they know iPads. So there is a technology difference there too, in teaching students skills on a computer, typing, and how to upload or download things, and what the correct terminology is for that, and proper emails.
Yeah. Wow. I'm having a light bulb moment right now, because I never thought of it that way, because I've just always used like a desktop or a laptop. That's mind-boggling to me. All right. Let's see. I think we got a question that came in. How do you see the impact of this in rural areas where Wi-Fi is not reliable or tech skills are lower? Thanks for the question. Does anybody want to comment on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm located in rural Minnesota. I'm calling in today from rural Itasca County, which is 2 hours from Duluth, 4 hours from the cities. And luckily, I'm a person who has fiber internet to my home, so I can do this work from here. But that's not the case everywhere. I think there needs to be understanding that broadband still isn't available in all of our communities, and even if it is, technology skills or willingness to adopt new technologies might be lagging in these rural communities. And there's a cost component too, right? Adopting new technologies, there's a cost with that. And I will be frank, I see growing inequity between those that are what you might call digital native or have invested into learning these skills and had the opportunity to do that versus those that don't want to engage with it or don't have the skill sets. And so that's not good news from my perspective, right? I think there needs to be dedicated work and resources available for those that need to build those tech skills up. We've made a lot of progress on broadband accessibility in Minnesota in the past 10 years. There's still a ways to go. Tools like Starlink are changing rural availability as well, right? So for me, it's how do you encourage folks to try out these new tools and learn that they're really not that big and that scary? It's okay to try something, fail, have it not work out the way you wanted to, and try again.
Yeah, I wonder what our future near term and longer term will look like. You know, it's kind of mind-boggling to think about that. But
I guess I'd keep the glass half full on this one, where while I think there are still certainly some broadband challenges, but certainly as we saw through COVID, people moved to rural areas to live and work because they could work and use tech skills, digital skills, because that often is, or can be a virtual remote kind of role. And so if we can continue to get, good broadband across the whole state, then it actually opens up some opportunities that maybe weren't there previously. Now we have to still encourage the education learning piece to make sure that people have the skills or can get the skills. But there's a lot of virtual training out there. So hopefully, if there are people who want to engage, they can.
And I would just throw one other thing out there is look for local resources. I know libraries typically have, computers available, and some even do, once a month trainings, or even like a cooperative like that I work for. There's always learning opportunities that are offered, and just looking throughout your community and looking for resources that are already out there.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot out there. I know one that I was familiar with was like North Star Digital Literacy and that website.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the programs that I work with, our local adult basic education. And that is one of the first tests we have for our participants is before they're enrolled in any of our programs is to take the North Star Digital Literacy test. And if they don't pass, then they go through the training to make sure that we're putting them in a place to reduce the frustration. Because that's, from my perspective, when I've seen implementing any type of AI, computer, digital literacy skills, VR specifically, is that barrier of, I don't know how to set it up. I don't know how to get it started. I'm frustrated. I'm mad. I'm never going to get it. So I'm done. And it's that barrier of just getting it started that stops most people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one more resource that I thought of when Amanda mentioned libraries, and that's community education programs. Mm-hmm. I was actually a little surprised the last time I opened my community ed booklet that I got in the mail. It had like 15 different computer AI skills courses that were offered at local in partnership with local communities and libraries. So if you aren't comfortable using a free resource like Coursera, where you can get these online modules, there's options to do it in person in a lot of communities as well.
Yeah, I know even LinkedIn Learning has some great courses too. So, all right, I think there was just one other question, and Vicki, this one was yours that we didn't get to in the main session. So I don't see anybody, any additional questions in the Q&A right now. So how do you guide small and mid-sized businesses to balance cost, risk, and workforce readiness when adopting new technologies?
Yeah, I think first we have to have a real conversation about their capacity to invest in these changes at their organization. And I say that from the framework of sometimes you have a leader and an organization that really wants to be on the bleeding edge, right? Like, oh, new model dropped on ChatGPT. We're going to use that one. Everyone switch over, right? Oh my gosh, have you seen what's happened? Like, have you seen what's happened with Claude in the last month, and some open source tools for agentic workflows that are mind-boggling, right? But if you don't have the internal capacity to understand the risks, cybersecurity risks, personal, like sensitive information risks, you shouldn't operate at the bleeding edge. You're still going to be ahead of the game if you're doing that continuous learning, if you are operating, 6 to 12 months behind that bleeding edge, you're still going to be ahead of your competition as a small business. And so, understanding really where folks are at and what it takes to invest in different rates of adoption of AI. And then let's dig in and create that policy that I talked about earlier, so all your employees are on the same page about what tools your organization does and does not allow them to use. What's the process for getting a new tool added to the list? What does it look like? What's the approved way to be curious and to try out new things for those that have that motivation to make their processes better, faster, and then bring that and share that within their organizations. So.
Great. So I think we've got a couple of questions that came in. So actually, Shayla asks us, how do industries who are at the point still considered low impact prepare workforce for digital impact? Industries.
Basically, how do we reach those that are playing ostrich? Oh, it's not reaching us right now. We don't need to worry about it, but actually it's coming. So their workers, when it does come, won't be ready, right? Because they're not preparing their workforce. Well, it will come in a few years, but it's not impacting their, right? Because like we said in the Minnesota data, about 56% of industries in Minnesota right now are exposed. So, right, how do we reach those industries who are still considered low impact to prepare their workforce?
I think probably through education, where, I think 56% is low, where it's going to touch almost everyone in some way. And I think helping people or industries or companies understand the ways it's going to come and impact them, where, I have to think most leaders are thinking about this at some level. And, I think talking about it more, right? Showing them how it might affect their sales organization or internal functions, or right, it's going to come at some part of their business and they may not see it yet. So I think talking about it, education, will help bring them along.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about some statistics that I heard was like the white collar jobs are going to be affected more than the blue collar jobs. So let's see how that plays out. But
Yeah, because like the electricians say AI will never affect electricians.
right.
What does never mean? Right.
Sure. And
Yeah.
it depends on the role in that industry as well, I think, right? I look at some construction firms that we've worked with, and we're helping them entirely revamp how they do estimating and bids. It's even if it's not touching every job at the forefront, it's probably touching it behind the scenes
Back
or
end.
another role in that industry.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And I have that philosophy too of, if people can't see what's possible, it's often really hard for them to imagine. And so continuing to have opportunities where businesses can see how it can really positively impact their ops, that's going to continue to be important.
Great.
I just
Well, we have just about 5 minutes left. So I think a good way to end this session would be you indicated kind of how each of you use different platforms. So I would invite you, if there are any success stories or favorite success stories working with clients or students, that we end on that note.
Sure, I would love to share how we implement it in our trainings. We see any type of AI or immersive technologies not as replacing any type of training, but as a supplement, just for extra practice. It's a safe space, right? Especially in healthcare, which is where my main area is. It's a safe place to practice without hurting anybody or doing anything that could cause harm. And so being able to be in that safe space in an area where you won't know how to experience it or what to do until you actually do it, but being able to have that experience before you have it in real life is priceless. It gives you that feedback and that confidence that later on you'll be able to handle it. And so I really see it as a way to put people in positions that they may not be able to until they're actually on the job, to better prepare them for those situations. And so we just use it as a supplement, but a way to add on to our trainings.
I love that. That's definitely great. Vicki and Scott, do you have any success stories or anything you'd like to share? Final?
I mean, there are endless things
That's good.
that we've done with clients. I mean, and the full range from finance transformation, marketing transformation. I mean, like it is and will continue to be applied all over the place. And it has freed up capacity and improved performance. And for the most part, people love it because it can take some routine tasks off their plate, right? And it allows people to work in roles and have impact that they couldn't have before. I mean, and it spans the entire, list of functions. So, I mean, there's all kinds of good stories out there, and there's probably some that aren't so good, but you asked for the good ones, and there's tons of them.
I have a story I'll try to keep brief. So last summer in June, Northland SBDC partnered with the West Central SBDC in the Fargo-Moorhead area, and we held the first all-day AI conference for small business in Greater Minnesota. And one of the things that we did was held a workshop where the business owner thought about a task that they either really didn't like doing or was taking a ton of time, that they're like, this is the rub, this is the spot that I want to make easier in my job or faster in my job. And I remember one of the small businesses we worked with was in the construction industry. And they actually struggled in the first session of the conference because they didn't have an account with any AI tool whatsoever. And they're like, I don't even know how to sign into ChatGPT, let alone how to use ChatGPT. And by the end of the day, when we went through that session with them and helped them build their custom GPT for their work, they were like, our goal was to save 100 hours a year. They're like, this is going to save our company over 1,000 hours a year. This is going to fundamentally change how we do our work. And to see, I'm not saying it's always that easy to go from not being able to log in to seeing it transform your business in one day, but it just opened my eyes to what folks can do when they have that guidance, when they have that training, and when they can see the true scope of the opportunity in front of them.
Yeah. That's just the power of logging in there and trying, and yeah, it's really great. Well, I think it is time. So thank you again to all the panelists, and thank you to our audience members. We hope to see you on April Fool's Day. So have a great rest of your day, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.